city, feeding into an elected mayor, and let those 5 commissioners actually have veto power over something the elected mayor may try to bring up. So you've got a little bit of checks and balances. I think the current system is simply not working. Susan can quote lots of figures and chapter and verse and statistics. At the end of the day, in our city, it doesn't work. We've seen the inability to reach consensus. We've had 3 city managers in 5 years. Our last city manager he got 2 votes on the city commission. They decided to look for more. Instead, 2 commissioners decided to bring him back, and a city commissioner that was not truly elected by the votes of the commission. I don't see this working. Parking meters in and out. You know, you have to build consensus, and you have to have leadership. You have to have the city going forward. You have to be vital. Right now, we have no leadership, and we are unable to build consensus. So let the people elect a mayor. Let the mayor speak for the people. Let the mayor take the reins of the city and try to move it forward, try to progress. I think our city commission is really tied to special interest groups. The special interest groups exercise their control over the commission, you know, by electing certain commissioners, and they hold those commissioners' feet to the fire to represent what these special interest groups want. I don't think that's particularly fair for the great bulk of the city.
Thank you so much. I too am in favor of an elected mayor, but really more than anything, I'm in favor of the community discussing this one more time. And I know that, and I'm certainly aware that the community has rejected it in different incarnations at several times. But however, I know that there are people who were once for our form of government, including me and probably some others up here, that are now against it. And my question is, how many people have changed their views? And certainly there's some benefit to our form of government. I'm going to work, I think, to the original question. I'll work with whatever we ultimately decide. If it ever gets us to vote again, it does, fine. If it doesn't, I'll work obviously within that system and try to make the most of it. But I too think that strong leadership is needed, and of course there are great examples of commission manager form of government that works, and then there are examples of it that doesn't work. And there are great examples of cities that have gone to elected mayors who have done well as well. So I don't think those are reasons to support or reject it. And so I respect some of the arguments of those who are against it. But one argument that I think should not be used anymore, and it's offensive to me, is that an African American can't win. I think it's an insult to African Americans, and it's an insult to white citizens as well. And of course, I would be naive to think there's no racism anywhere in Sarasota, but I do have confidence in all the voters of this city, white or black. And if I don't win this election on March 12th, I'm not going to be crying. It was because I was black. So is that warning or end?
Warning.
Warning. Okay, so I think certainly our city is in a place, not to say that our form of government has been bad for where we are, but that doesn't mean that going forward we shouldn't reconsider, because I believe we need a visionary, of course, who is checked by a council to help move our city forward. Thank you.
All right, on this particular question, I agree with Susan Chapman, the lady in red, and I'm going to add a little bit to what she said. The special interests are the development and business community. They typically do not live in the city. They invest obscene amounts of money in the election campaigns, and you can tell who got it by what they say in the forums. You know, even without going to the website. But here, there was a second part to that question. It says here in the city charter that individual city commissioners shall be prohibited from giving direct orders to the city manager, city auditor, clerk, city attorney. And somewhere else, I can't find it right now, it says that the city commissioners cannot directly supervise any employee. If they want something done, they would say so at a meeting with where the city manager's there, and if the other commissioners agree with that, then the city manager would see to it down to the other employees. Now, the city commissioners can approach city employees directly for information, but not to direct their activities. Did I answer that? Is there anything else? Question?
It's up to you.
Well, I mean, I wanted to make sure. Okay, so the neighborhood is not a special interest. All the neighborhoods there are, they're not a special interest. The neighborhoods are the people. The special interests are the guys who are pouring money into it to get the government to fund their businesses with your money.
Well, I guess we've heard from all of you on that question. I would like to just say one thing. These 6 candidates are all running for 2 seats at large. They don't represent any district in the city. They're running to represent all the districts. They have really a harder job than those that are elected just for a district, because they have to come here and go to every district. So their jobs, I think at-large jobs are really, they're both interesting to represent your district, but as commissioners, you cannot favor your own district more than the others. So you really do represent all the people. So now, it's interesting, the questions that I have all relate to one issue, which might not surprise you. But anyway, I'm going to read the questions as I have them in my hand. What can be done to undo or mitigate the problems that will be created by the development of the Fruitville-Beneva property? That's one question. The next one is, if there is no sale of the park to Bendison, will you move to protect that to follow the wishes of the voters? The next one, same related issue, how and when did you first know about the Bendison development proposal for the parkland at Beneva and Fruitville? The next one is, we know that hardly any developments have been denied by City Commission. Why are some candidates pressing for a reversal of policy? It seems as if they do not know our history.
Could you repeat that last one?
That one baffles me a little. We know that hardly any developments have been denied by City Commission. Why are some candidates pressing for a reversal of policy, or it seems as if they do not know our history? That's a very confusing question to me. But the first 3, I think, are not hard to deal with. What can be done to undo or mitigate the problems at Fruitville-Beneva? If there is no sale of the park, will you move to protect that to follow the wishes of the voters? And how and when did you first know about the Bendison development proposal for parkland at Beneva and Fruitville? So, I'm not going to go in any particular order. My idea is to give you equal chance, but not in the same order every time. So I'm going to start. I'm going to start with.
Are these going to be presented as 3 different questions to answer? Because I'm a little lost here.
I'm a little lost too, actually. You want to do them in order? Okay.
I can do them all in one. Well, whatever the pleasure is. I think I understand. They're all related.
They're all so closely
They're all kind of related.
Maybe we can get a little bit more time though.
Yeah.
Maybe an extra minute.
Yeah.
If needed.
What did we have for your time to answer? 2 minutes. Let's make it
3.
a little longer to envelop the 3 questions.
My feeling, I would give them 4. This is a pretty complicated issue.
It is pretty complicated. So, okay, whichever, did you make notes as to what the 3 questions were? Okay, that one I think was a little confusing. So what can be done to undo or mitigate the problems?
I think it'd be easier if you ask them individually.
You're not an owner.
Okay.
Please.
I'm fine. I don't know.
fine.
Okay, all right, okay, what, 3 minutes?
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes, okay. I was going to go in order for Kelvin to be first, and Pete to be second. Let's see, Richard third, Suzanne fourth, and Linda five. I hit 2 ones down.
And do I get to go?
No. Yes, you do. I made my list kind of hot here. Okay. Okay, Kelvin.
I first learned about the proposed Benderson buy of the corner of Fruitville and Beneva. I believe it sitting in the city commission meeting is where I first heard about it. My thoughts on it, and of course I want to see, I believe one of the keys to our city getting out of its financial problems, it is, or at least one part of it is economic growth. However, the selling of a city park just doesn't sit well with me. As bad as I want to see smart growth, that doesn't mean just growth willy-nilly. And so I really struggle with us selling parkland. And so that kind of maybe answers my other question. If you know, I was on the losing side of the vote and there was some big development there, then of course I believe it probably would create some traffic problems and impact the neighborhood. I would imagine so. You know, I believe in just to address some other things I've heard. Certainly I'm not a wealthy man, and so I have no interest, I have no property. And so seeing business thrive in Sarasota isn't going to personally benefit me, not at all. And the work that I've dedicated my life to has been in neighborhoods. And so there are groups, if we be honest, on both sides. There are special interest groups, are not just business. There are many on both sides who are reasonable. You encounter all kinds of people on the campaign trail. I find investors who are very sound, reasonable, want smart growth, don't want to bulldoze neighborhoods. There are some who probably don't care, it's just about a dollar. There are some neighbors who are middle of the road. I want to see the Walmart there, like some of the Alta Vista residents. I want to see it there, but I just want to see it like this. I think it's very reasonable. But then you've got people on the edges of both sides, and I think it's unfair to say this is just a special interest group, business people and not neighborhoods. And of course, I have no personal benefit. I'm not wealthy by any stretch. But there are some who just want no business at all and fight everything. Then, and as Richard rightly said, we've got to get to the middle. And so I think the commission obviously has to listen to everybody and find a way to help the city grow. I don't know if I'm answering that other question right. I'm trying to address it the best I understand it. To find a way that is going to enhance business, but yet promote growth, but enhance the neighborhood. And I think it can be both. I think there are examples of bad growth, but examples of bad growth shouldn't make us anti-growth, period. And then I think there are other examples of growth that help the local economy and enhance a neighborhood. And I don't think that we have to choose between the two. And so I think that's part of the hate part of politics that I have, that you almost have to be cornered to be one or the other. When as a city commission, my thought process is rotten so much. Walmart's one of my favorite stores. It was up to me personally, there'll be one on every corner. But as a commission, I realized we've got to do what's best and help the neighborhoods. Is it going to enhance or is it going to help hurt local business? And Walmart can have a positive impact on neighborhoods, or it can have a devastating impact. And so I think it depends on where it goes. And so, and I'm saying all that not to ramble, but to just give you some window into my thought process as a possible commissioner, how I'll process things that come before us as a commission. And that's my thought process. What's going to help our local economy, which I believe we need to grow. That's part of it. That's not the total answer to getting out of our financial problems, but I believe that's a big piece of it. But not destroy our neighborhoods. Mind you, that's it? 30. I've lived here all my life. And I wasn't brought up on Bird Key. And so I was raised up in neighborhoods, and so I see how unique all of our neighborhoods are. And preserving them and enhancing them is what it's all about. That's what it's all about, making our city more livable. And I think that is a combination of some business services and preserving our neighborhood's character. And if you need more, I'll be glad to talk to you after.
You know, before we started asking questions, I was just going to suggest anybody who wants some coffee and some goodies that are back there. Feel free to get up and get them anytime you want.
Including me?
Including you.
I'm a coffee,
You're done.
I'm in therapy for my
Okay, number 2 on this one's going to be Pete.
All right.
I'm trying very hard to be fair.
The reason I am one of those who seems to object to every development is because the developments and all the proposals never include concurrency. They never want to pay all the impact fees. When they don't pay them, the taxpayers as a whole, you and me, we pay them. It goes on to our tax bill. Sometimes it goes on as a line item. Sometimes the commissioners will add a special district to pay for something or other, and we wind up paying that. You see, when you get the trim notice, there's about 9 or 10 things there, and that's where those things come from sometimes. Now, depending on what they're developing. My idea is, I'm not opposed to height. I'm not opposed to density. I love all these beautiful plans, but they have to pay for the increased traffic, the increased sewers, the increased schools and libraries. They have to pay for this themselves, not push it off on you and me. Now, that's not quite the same as being anti-development or even anti-developer, but every business has to pay its own bills, except for 50 years, those 2 particular businesses, and sometimes others, have been getting us to pay their bills by giving campaign contributions to candidates for public office. Now, the sale of the public park, when I heard about it, was when it showed up on the agenda for the meeting. I get those mailed to me. I think some of the commissioners were blindsided by that. But there was one commissioner who knew about it for 18 months, and it was going on outside of the sunshine, so that's how she knew about it and nobody else did. However, can we stop it? Well, it's contingent on they're getting what they want in a zoning hearing. Now, one way to stop it would be don't give them what they want in the zoning hearing. I think that might be a real good way to stop it. But you'd have to have the right thinking commissioners on the commission when that comes to a hearing. So, you know, I hope I'm being clear. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
You know what, can I interject? I think the personal attacks need to stop.
I
Okay.
was questioning in my mind about
Because when
the
you
personal
don't name a
attack
name
business.
and talk about a commission, say her,
I
and
think
there's only one female commissioner,
that's
that needs to stop.
please be very careful about your reference to those at the table or not at the table, as far as that goes. So I have down here 1, 2, 3 would be Richard.
Boy, you've had a lot of information going on about this. I think it's important that you have all the information because a lot of things that have actually taken place have not been in the press and you've not been aware of what's going on. First of all, this isn't parkland. So let's absolve us of that. It's not parkland. Secondly, no deal has been done. It is still in discussion. No final deal has been done. Thirdly, I learned about this thing when it first came out to the commission. I've since researched it. Do you know these discussions have been going on with commissioners? Maybe not the majority, I don't know, but a number of commissioners, if not all of them, these discussions have been going on for more than 2 years. The commission has been put absolutely in notice about that, and they've been put in notice about it because you couldn't just buy that piece of land and put up a piece of property. A lot of things had to take place before that could even be approached. There was a long-term lease on that piece of property by one of the churches. Until you were able to come to an agreement with the church to absolve the situation of the long-term lease, then you had no chance to do anything on the property. So for 2 years, and again, I'm not telling you whether I'm for and against, for 2 years, the Benderson Group had to go out and negotiate with lots of different people that the commission was fully aware of and gave the go-ahead to go through this process and keep going. Negotiate with all these people to try to make something happen. It finally gets to the commission table, and there are, of course, a lot of questions. Pete mentions concurrency. I've had people ask me about traffic. How are they going to deal with it? Do you know the Bendersons have given $10,000 to the city commission to study the traffic impact that this possible piece of development work may have on the community? The Bendersons could have said, we'll do the study ourselves, but no. They funded the study and they gave it to the commission so the commission could do something that was nonpartisan, so they could draw their own conclusions. Again, I'm not telling you I'm for it or against it, but it's helpful to be informed. Again, all of these things have been going on in the background. All of these things had to take place before it even got to the commission table, before it was even considered a potentially viable project. Now again, the deal isn't done. There's still lots of feedback that has to come in from the community. There will probably be a plan, there will probably be half a dozen plans before anything is even remotely agreed on. So whether you like it or not, you have to understand the process that took place before it even got to the point where you even heard about it. So again, you can vote for it, you vote against it, that's up to the commissioners. I think there'll be plenty of protection that the voters will be able to put into place. But again, when the question was how will you undo the problems that will come from this, first of all, we don't know what the problems are. Second of all, we don't even know if there's a project yet. Thank you.
Okay, I have down here, let's see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4. I have down here as Linda will respond to the.
I thought it was Suzanne before me, but I
Before Suzanne.
No, I don't, just tell me when to go. I'm next.
Well, I'm Suzanne. Linda and I agree that Suzanne was 4.
Oh, okay, all right.
I thought I wrote down.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna start with,
That's fine.
so I can go?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at my wrong list.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you've heard, a couple of years ago, I've known about this, and a lot has gone on. And by the way, I want to preface this whole thing, and Richard summed it up in a lot of, he has said a lot of things that I'm going to say. We have not come to any conclusion yet. And I just want to say also at the meeting, the commission meeting the other day, the Parks and Rec came to us, Millie, and asked